Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 294.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you're here today because this is going to be one of those episodes. Look, I know you're on the treadmill, you're washing dishes, maybe the kids are yelling at you in the background, who knows? Maybe you're driving home or driving to work, the very job you're looking to leave, by the way. But here's what I know. You're going to want to take lots of notes. We're going to have a lot of information. This is going to be one of those you're going to play over and over and over again, and most importantly, recommend to friends. Let me tell you why. Many people ask and wonder, where are the opportunities today? How can you spot them in the future? Yeah, it's great for today, but what about tomorrow, right? How do I be able to know what to do when I read the tea leaves, as I like to call it, and as you see things change in the marketplace? Well, today's guest is perfect to help you and I do exactly that. She's none other than Kathy Fettke, CEO and founder of the Real Wealth Network based in Walnut Creek, California. They are an organization dedicated to helping members get the most current and cutting-edge education and information they need to succeed as a real estate investor. She's been featured in a number of places, including CNBC, Fox, recently inducted to the Inc. 5000, awesome, and among the 100 most intriguing, and I love the word, intriguing entrepreneurs 2 years in a row by Goldman Sachs. So interesting thing is intriguing. I can't wait to ask her what that really, really means. But here's what I do know. You and I, it's time for us to take some notes. Help me welcome Kathy Fettke. Kathy, you there?
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro.
You are quite welcome. Intriguing entrepreneur. I like that. I do.
I was pretty amazed to win it. I was with the founders of Uber and some really big companies at that event. And I think the reason Goldman Sachs pointed us out is we jumped in during the housing crisis and cleaned up neighborhoods and tried to help solve issues. And so they recognized that. It was a great honor.
Totally understood. And I love entrepreneurs that solve problems because that's kind of like what we do. So,
yeah.
Now, I've got a question for you. It's the same question I tend to ask most everybody when they first come on. So I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, you know, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, Spider-Man, Superman, etc. And I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton in common. Chief among them, occasionally we get dressed up. We use our special skills to save other people from their own mess and help them, right? And we are uniquely gifted in some unique area, and we love to exercise our special ability. Now, also like superheroes, though, before Superman was super or Spidey was climbing up walls, they, pretty much normal. They had that alter ego. Another way of looking at it is that origin story. They started somewhere. So what we want to know is before all the awards, 2 years running, by the way, before the CNBC, before the Fox, before the Inc. 5000, before helping so many entrepreneurs dissect and understand marketplaces, who is Kathy Fettke?
Oh, I've never been asked that question in all the interviews I've done. I love it. So, I think my history has always been somebody who would go in and try to protect consumers from something they're getting ripped off on. So early in my 20s, I I wanted to be an actress so badly, and more than that, I really wanted to be an anchor woman. That was my goal and dream.
I see.
I went to a broadcast school, and then I heard an ad on the radio for somebody. They were looking for somebody to teach acting classes, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'll work for this modeling agency, and I'll teach acting. That'll help me be in the industry. And when I got there, what they wanted me to do was basically sell acting classes to people who really had no talent whatsoever. I mean, and these were really expensive classes, and I couldn't do it. I could make a tremendous amount of money in my early 20s doing that, because I would make about like $500 per sale, and I could easily get 5 to 10 per day, because everybody wants to be an actor, and if you tell them they've got what it takes, mom and dad's they're going to write the check. So I could easily have made $5,000 or in a day, even at that age. But I couldn't do it. And I would watch people use their entire savings to sign their kid who really had very little talent. I really hate to say it, but it's true in some of these cases. So I started my own agency, and I connected with real direct casting directors and brought in the best acting coaches. I said, there's really a need for this. And it was just back then that I realized, well, you really just don't have to rip people off. Give people the truth, give them something of value, and don't make promises, or don't lie to people. I mean, if somebody doesn't have any skill in acting, that's okay. They can still improve themselves by learning the acting skills, but you don't have to promise them the world or that they're going to be a star, So that, and needless to say, when I went in business, that business went out of business because they couldn't compete. And I was just in my early 20s. And then, it ended up being a very similar story when I discovered real estate.
Interesting. Now, you do realize that they clearly have stopped listening to your advice about this whole no skill in acting thing. I'm sure somebody is thinking of movie after movie. They're like, how did that get made? But we're not going to name... We're not going to name anybody's movie, M. Night Shyamalan, about anything that he's done recently. We're just going to say that I think they stopped listening to that. But,
yeah, maybe.
but that's okay. That's okay. Now, and as you were talking, one of the things that was coming up, and I think you were about to go there, is how do you go from that to real estate?
Right. So, I ended up having this acting and modeling agency. I ended up booking a lot of people into movies and so forth. But, I never quite booked myself, because I was one of those untalented actors, as much as I wanted to be one.
Nice.
I would submit myself under a different name as the agent, submitting, and I still couldn't get it. Anyway, eventually I met my husband, got married. We had 2 children. And I was really just living the dream life. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so I kind of let that go. But I was still in the broadcast world. So I'd also gone into, as I said, I wanted to be a news anchor. So I was a news writer working in Fox and ABC7 and CNN, occasionally reporting and news anchoring. And but when I had my children, I just could not go chasing fires and murderers, and it just didn't work. So I became a stay-at-home mom, just blissful. We had a beautiful home and beautiful children. My husband's career was taking off. He had just written a book called Extreme Success. They were billing him as the new Tony Robbins, comparing his extreme sports with business success, and everything was great until the wake-up call. I was growing my organic food, chopping the vegetables in the kitchen, making dinner, and he walked in with tears in his eyes. He had just been told from the doctor that he had 6 months to live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, now this is a guy who was jumping off, the Golden Gate Bridge, bungee jumping. He was in the X Games. I mean, he's a stud. Basically, he had been in the sun too much. He'd been a bodybuilder, and he had melanoma. And the doctor was, after many tests, convinced that it had spread. And when melanoma spreads, it's it spreads quickly. And so basically that was they didn't know for sure, but it wasn't looking good. And, here I'm thinking there's no way a freckle is going to kill this guy. He's like the Hulk. But so I never believed it, but he did. He had his, what would you think? So basically we agreed, listen, if the doctor's right, which he's not, but let's just say he is, you need to have these last 6 months be great, and I will take over the finances. But mind you, I was a stay-at-home mom. And the one thing I had kept was my radio show. From my broadcast life, I kept this little radio show once a week for fun because I didn't want to give up my professional life completely. And so I just said, I'll just turn this show into something that makes money. And so he kind of got off the treadmill, and I'm going to just jump in right now and say he's totally fine and healthy right now. The doctor was wrong. He's alive and well. Right. He is my co-CEO, but at the time we didn't know. And so yeah, I started interviewing people on my show. It's called The Real Wealth Show. I still have it today. It was on radio back then, but it's podcast now. And I just started interviewing people like you, people who had created wealth and passive income, because I wanted to I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to create some kind of income that I didn't have to work for.
Right.
So, and so the more people I interviewed, the more I found that was possible. And that's how Real Wealth Network was born. Got
it. Makes perfect sense. And for those of you who don't know, radio is this other technology. It's well before podcasts. I mean, just ask your parents if you're kind of confused. Right. Hey, Mom, what's radio? She'll let you know. Interestingly enough, what I do find as a common thread is often that real estate isn't something someone was searching for. It was a solution, or the best solution to a life-changing situation. It's like, it seems to be very, very common. And the people that you've interviewed, have you found that also to kind of be the case?
Yeah, well, dependent. I mean, sometimes what really got me is, here I was in my mid-30s at the time, or early 30s, and I was interviewing people younger than me who were already in a position of retirement because they didn't go to college. They just saw the opportunity in real estate and they jumped in. They maybe had a connection or something, and they made the right decisions. Maybe lived in a house, fixed it up, refinanced it, took the money out, bought another one. Just built it over time till the time they were 30, they were done, and I thought, well, they didn't even go to college. They're no smarter than me. I can do this, and so, in some cases it just was luck and smarts, and in other cases, yeah, there was desperation. But I think when you see the opportunity with real estate, and most people just don't, they haven't been taught.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. You're hitting some of my hot buttons right now, but yes, go. I love it.
I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, I guess it was a desperate situation, and I got lucky that these people I interviewed, many of them were in real estate. So then I was learning, and then my audience was learning. And oh my goodness, I couldn't believe the things I was hearing. And half the time I'd have to ask the guest saying, wait, no, you can't do that. And what? Really? You can write all this off and you don't have to pay that many taxes and you can get a loan and only put this much down and still cash flow. I couldn't believe it.
Right. Is that legal? Why didn't they tell me that in school? That's not right.
Credit repair. I could get my credit improve. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah. It was just a whole new world.
Exactly.
I was about to break out into song, but that would be good.
Well, that's okay. We could both sing horribly together. How about that? I'll intentionally be off key. It would be awesome.
Awesome. Yes.
That would launch both of our careers at the same time.
Yes.
Now, my question though is because you brought up this not being able to recognize opportunity. I've often stated to people that the purpose of education is to train you and I to recognize opportunity. The challenge is that most of us have only, and because there's a difference, most of us have only been schooled and not necessarily educated. So the only thing we know how to recognize is an opportunity spelled JOB. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, though, to understand how you recognize opportunities today. How do you see them? I mean, because I know how I feel. I know how excited I am every day, right? Especially right now. But I would love to know, how do you see the opportunities in the current marketplace? Where are they? What makes them so great?
Well, it is amazing how if you're not educated or experienced, you just can't see it, or you might see it, but you just don't do anything about it.
Right.
Or you just think that's for somebody else. But
my goodness, you did not say that. Yes. Yes.
I have close friends and family. I just can't, motivate. But at the same time, I've got thousands and thousands of followers who I can. So that's where I'm going to focus. But so the opportunities today are abundant, as they always are, because we hear, this is why I'm in the news all the time trying to straighten out the media, because they act like there's one real estate market and it's it's all the same everywhere, it's crazy. So if you just look back at 2006, that was right before the great crash of real estate, and yet if you made certain choices back then, it could have been the opportunity of a lifetime rather than the beginning of going over the cliff or over the waterfall. So in other words, once I started interviewing experts and really learning market cycles, which is so incredibly important, because there is lots of different real estate you can do in lots of different markets, but if you time it wrong or get it wrong, like I said, it's the difference of either floating down the river right before the waterfall or floating down the river and having a really good time, So back in 2006, if you were buying in bubble markets, well, we know what happened. You lost everything. But if you were selling in bubble markets, then you cashed out. And if you did that and then exchanged tax deferred into markets that weren't bubblicious, if in fact the opposite, they were just at the beginning of their boom, which was the case in 2006, there were markets that were not in a bubble. And because of the experts I was interviewing on my show, I learned that and taught people that, okay, all the signs are here that there's nothing affordable in California, not a chance. Like once these payments adjust, it will be more than people make in their salary. They won't be able to afford these payments. But in Texas at the time, this was 2005, 2006, it was the opposite. So jobs were abundant. There was population growth and job growth, but housing hadn't caught up. So housing was 28% undervalued, while California was 100% overvalued. So the people who listened to me just timed that so beautifully by selling at the peak, cashing out, and taking all their profits over to Texas, where they could quadruple, if not quintuple, their cash flow and not lose their nest egg, but instead watch it grow. So that's kind of what we have, fast forward 10 years. And, based on history repeats itself about every 10 years in the markets. And we're here 10 years later, believe it or not, very similar. So once again, there are bubble markets and there are markets that are just at the beginning of their boom cycle. So we're telling people in the bubble markets, you don't have to sell, keep your property if it's working for you and it's cash flowing. But if you have a ton of equity and it's debt equity and it's not doing anything for you, consider either refining on these low rates and taking that cash out and doing something with it, or selling and exchanging it for something better.
Perfect. Now, here's what I want to underscore based upon what you just said, because oftentimes there's a misconception, I believe, that's out there about, hey, I'm going to do real estate. I'll buy the property and then I'll never have to look at it or worry about it again. And I often tell people passive income doesn't mean uninvolved. And just because you've owned something for a while, now you are instead you're an equity manager. You've got to manage that equity appropriately. I would love to hear your thoughts specifically for those people who might be in those bubble markets who are, but Jay, it's paid off, because I hear that all the time. It's paid off.
Yep.
And I know you do too. So talk to all of them right now.
All right. Well, I'm going to just give you a different perspective. It cracks me up when people say, "What do you mean you can't cash flow in California?" I'm cash flowing, and I say, "Oh, tell me more." I've got this property, and I make a few $1,000s a month on it. Oh, great. Well, tell me the value of that property. Probably about $1 million, or something like that. It's like, okay, well, I'm glad you're cash flowing, but you realize that your $2,000 a month you're getting could be $10,000. So, you decide what you like better, $2,000 or $10,000 in cash flow. Now, it's you have to get over some barriers when you think this way. There's other podcasters even who kind of make fun of me, like, "Oh, you play the markets or whatever, the real estate is something you're supposed to hold." And, that may be true if it makes sense, but if it makes more sense to do something else, then you've got to compare.
Whoa, hold on. They were washing dishes, the dog barked, and I'm glad you are beating this drum, because this time it's not Jay saying it, it's you. So I want you to repeat that, because they didn't hear it. They didn't understand the nuance of what you just said and how important it is. Okay, now I know you're probably used to me by now being really excited about very small things, or what you think are small things. I get it. But here's the deal, guys. It's in those small things where, you've heard terms like you get rich in a niche. Well, it's because of those small things. So I'm hoping that this particular episode is something that you are paying deep attention to, because there's lots of wisdom and information being shared that allows you to make more progress faster than the average ordinary person who wants to make real estate happen. Guys, I'm not even going to delay any longer. It doesn't even matter. The point is take copious notes, pay attention, but most of all, take some action on what you're about to hear next.
Well, it's okay. You don't want to be old school. This world is changing too quickly to live in the past. You can't. You'll get eaten alive. So you've got to stay on top of things, like you said. And so if you are not paying attention to your properties, if you just think you can buy and hold, which I love buy and hold, but there's kind of a new definition, I guess, that we're creating right now, is it's buy and hold until you find something better to buy and hold.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and so just to give some examples, there's nothing that makes me happier than to see people live joyously and live their dreams and, get out of the rat race, as Kiyosaki would say, and live off of their passive income. So, it happens to us every day. Somebody will hear me, they'll get it. They will sell their $1 million rental property, tear down in San Francisco or whatever, and that they're feeding every month because it's old and not in the best part of town. And they'll listen to me and they'll sell. And that one property we can exchange into 10 sometimes. Now, some people will say, "Oh, there's no way. Why would I want 10? I can barely manage one." Well, that's because you shouldn't be managing it.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
If you're an entrepreneur, then you have to understand, and if you're a business owner of any kind, and that includes real estate, then you have to know how to build a team, and you should not be doing jobs that are, that someone can do better, or that, are below your pay scale. And so, so it's actually easier to manage 10 properties than one property if you have a good property manager, as opposed to doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So, especially me, because I don't know how to fix anything.
I know, right? I got uniquely skipped on that skill too. I got other skills, but that one, it's like the other day, I'm in the process of putting together some vacation rentals. So, and because these are near me, because most of my portfolio is normally far away, but I want it to be more involved, and because I want my kids involved and all this other stuff, I actually, it was worthy of a Facebook status update that I went into Home Depot. And because everybody who knows, they're like, why is he there? Something bad is about to happen. He does not belong. I just don't belong in Home Depot.
I'm with you. That is one of the more painful experiences that, we just went this weekend to buy my millennial daughter her first barbecue. And let me tell you, I was like, let's in and out. Come on, in and out. I can't grab the barbecue. Let's go.
Right. This one, it doesn't matter the color, and no, it doesn't connect to the internet. It's a barbecue. Let's go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally understood. So when it comes to opportunity, here's the thing. I mean, those that are listening they're probably wondering if you and I like wrote some script and I said, here, say this, because you and I, we're on the same page in so many areas. But what I'm curious to know is when it comes to, spotting opportunity ahead of time, being able to look for it. What are some of the metrics, or what's this Kathy Fettke secret sauce to success that would allow you to identify a marketplace as something to watch?
It really comes down to understanding the world and people and just my curiosity in general about our changing world. Think about, I just interviewed on my show a guy who went to prison for mortgage fraud. Now he's out and he's recuperated or whatever. He's rehabbed himself. So, but in the 5 years he was in prison, he came out and he was like, "Whoa, what are these phones? And people are texting, and what is this?" It was a different world. And that was in a 5-year span. So technology is changing so quickly that, what has been normal in the past, it just isn't true today. A simple example would be just look at demographics and who's buying what. And that will determine the economy moving forward. And that's usually will determine what real estate you buy. Because wherever the economy is booming, that's where there's going to be jobs, and that's where people are going to need a place to live to be near those jobs. Yep. And so if those jobs are constantly changing, then so is real estate. And so it's just that whole buy and hold and sit and watch and do nothing. It doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't work. I mean, I still have people who are living in the outdated past saying, and these are people from overseas, maybe who just don't know as much as what's going on, but they're like, I want to buy in Detroit because the auto industry is there. Now, nothing against Detroit, but the auto industry isn't there anymore.
They missed a few emails, memos, newscasts.
Right. It's just so you cannot live even in last year or even last month in some cases. It is moving so fast. We are seeing robots come online. We are seeing cars that drive themselves. We're seeing young people who don't really even know what a mall is. My daughter's girlfriends came over to do their prom dress shopping in our house.
Oh my goodness.
You see, now when I went prom shopping, and even with my older daughter, who's only a few years older, we went to Macy's. This generation, they did it online, and they compared, and nobody was going to wear the same dress because they all got together in our house and picked their dresses. And so, everything is changing. In the past, we used to buy real estate by Macy's and by Walmarts and by all these big box stores, Home Depot. Here we are again. Now, listen, I hate Home Depot, but I'm not the only one. I would much rather go online and order it that way.
Yes.
And so guess where my millennial daughter works? She works at a company called Build.com. Oh. Some kid, he's another millennial who just said, this is dumb. I don't want to go to Home Depot. I'm going to just find a way to sell this online. And he started this company called Build.com. It is now a $500 million company. And this is some kid with a Chico State education. So not like the best college in the world, but the world is changing.
Well, you're bringing up all of the things that I try to keep my finger on the pulse of. And that's, I've often told people, I'm a job chaser, but not just any job. I'm looking for jobs that can't be offshored. They can be outsourced, fine, but offshored is an issue because my real estate isn't offshore. It might be here, and if the job goes away, those things are there. However, when you bring up this issue of technology, the technology is flattening the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
So my question becomes then, if now what used to be we'll say a US only job is now able to be done anywhere, from anywhere, anytime, when is the right time for the real estate investor to begin to consider real estate possibly outside of this country?
We're doing a project right now in Costa Rica, and we've been selling properties in Belize for a long time.
So yesterday, got it.
Yesterday, yeah, for sure. But I'm still a big fan of U.S. real estate more than anything because, and the rest of the world is too. The U.S. is still the safe haven for the world, and foreign money is pouring in because others recognize it. And it just, I just want to shake up Americans and go, wouldn't you like to buy your own real estate, or would you rather just sell it to all the foreigners coming in? Nothing against foreigners, but let's buy some of our own stuff, or let's wake people up. Foreigners would do anything to have access to the kind of financing that Americans have.
I know. Sorry, I got it. You got me excited again when I was overseas and in Europe, just listening to their financing. I'm like, and you got they still find a way to buy real estate with that horrible financing.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. I mean, people take for granted a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is a normal thing. There's nothing normal about it. It makes no sense. No bank can make money on that. It's ridiculous. Lowest yielding thing. I mean, especially today, banks are going out of business because these 30-year fixed rate mortgages. You could lock in your payment for 30 years. Are you kidding? Rents are going up. That means that you're in a fixed payment, but you get a raise every single year that rents go up. And if you don't own your own primary residence yet, you need to really consider that, because you are going to be paying a lot more to live anywhere if you do not lock in those payments. So, yeah, I mean, we have Australians and Chinese and Europeans contacting us constantly trying to get, I hear you talking about these 30-year fixed rate mortgages. Yeah, sorry, you can't have one. Our Americans can have them, but what? They don't think it's anything special. So, and they don't know that they can get 10 or 20 of them.
Right. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, well, I think we all fall victim to it to some degree, because, I live in Southern California. Disneyland isn't exactly the place I like to go, even though people save up money and come from all across the world to go to what is just a few minutes up the street from where I am sitting right now. So I think many of us can have that perspective. And fortunately, you're out there spreading the message and helping people to understand that, look, I know you may take this for granted because it's just not like that other places, and there's so much opportunity here. So here comes the next question. Because there's so much opportunity, and it's like everywhere, how on earth do you choose one?
Well, that is a great question. I think it depends on a lot of factors, what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, where you hold your money, just what lifestyle you want to have. So, and how much money you have. So if you're kind of starting out and needing to build your empire, then you need to get a lot of loans. You need to leverage. You can put a little bit of money down and borrow the rest and still cash flow, as long as you do it wisely and you have enough reserves set in place and you buy the right property that has enough tenant pool that you won't be sitting with vacancies. Then you need to use leverage, and so then of course that comes down to, well, then do I buy single families or multifamily? And that is just,
you buy every family. No,
you just buy family. Yeah. I love single family because of the appreciation and because of the easy exit, and it's just easy to understand. And I would prefer to live in a single family, so I feel like my tenant would. But we own apartments too, and some people just prefer that. The financing is different, and so you can, get non-recourse loans, and so it just depends. But there are lots of surveys showing that there is a trend towards people wanting to rent single families more than multifamily, and the yields are higher. So from a pure spreadsheet standpoint, I still like single family better, and plus multifamily is the prices have been driven up by a lot of foreign investors. So,
don't
yeah.
get me started there, causing me all kinds of headaches.
But both good, right? And commercial, you better be darn careful. Commercial is at a stage in the cycle where you've got to be careful. You can always find a deal, but again, there's just less brick and mortar when it comes to commercial. I'm sure you've seen all the kind of issues. Same thing, foreigners have driven it up. So be careful when it comes to commercial. Like you, I would only want to do jobs, invest in areas where that, it has to be here, like dentists or massage therapists. You can't go outsource that.
Nope. Doesn't work that way.
Medical, that
there
type
is
of
no
thing.
virtual massage.
Yeah.
Although, if there was, I would be a customer.
Absolutely. And then, private money lending, that's a wonderful option for people who don't want to be landlords at all and just want to retire, but you kind of have to already have money to do that. And then we've kind of, I don't know if you've done this but we found this niche of the $2 to $10 million range where hedge funds just find it to be too small, but the individual investor finds it to be too large. And so there's deals to be found. And so we do a lot of syndications. We pool, a group of investors come together and we buy, like I said, $3 to $10 million projects that we just get crazy good discounts on.
Exactly. It's like at some point, Kathy, you and I are just the same person. You've got
so nice to know.
You've got more hair, but it's all good. Other than that, I think we're good. Now, when it comes to getting started, I've got a special question that I definitely want to ask you because I know a lot of people are dealing with it, and I know you're going to have a great answer for it. However, for those that have listened this far, here's what I believe about them. I believe they want to know more about what you are up to, and they want to be able to understand more about how you think because you do attack it from a completely different perspective. So what's going to be the best way for them to, tell us how to stalk you, Kathy, because that's what we want to do. We want to stalk you.
I'm very stalkable. I'm all over. Our website is Real Wealth Network. So real like real estate, wealth like your money, and network as in the network of experts we have nationwide. So that's free to join. And then you'll get access to our data on the best markets for buying real estate today. And then you get access to the teams in those markets that can help you find what you're looking for. Totally what we call real turnkey, which is our very high standard to turnkey. There's a lot of really terrible ones out there, but we only select the best with the highest standards, and we give you that list. So realwealthnetwork.com. And then I have my podcast, The Real Wealth Show. And my book, Retire Rich with Rentals, is on Amazon.
Awesome. Excellent. Now, there's probably someone who's been listening this entire time. And here's what I'm going to say. They said to themselves, or they said before they were listening, they've been thinking about, I want to be one of those superhero entrepreneurs too. They could be Kathy right now standing in front of the superhero outfit store, trying to pick out their cape, wondering what color it's going to be, figuring out that it would be so cool to be like Kathy if only one day. However, in the back of their head, they have that voice. They have that small voice that whispers and sometimes yells when they start talking about becoming something bigger, better, badder than what they currently are. And occasionally that voice even comes from people that they know. Mm-hmm. My question to you would be, if you knew that in the next 24 to 48 hours of listening to this, that they would actually go and do what you said, what would you tell that person to do?
I would start with the vision, because until you can see it and feel it and taste it and, get excited about it, it won't happen. And so write it down. What do you see? What 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you could really design your life the way you want, what would that look like? And go in detail, fill up a full page, and do not skimp on anything.
Right.
And then when you do that, you're going to, those scary false limiting beliefs will come up, because that's why you don't have what you want. It's just the limiting beliefs. So when you visualize what you want, they're going to come up. And that's when you can address it and say, oh, I see. You think it's too much responsibility. All right. Okay. Well, let's delve into that. Or, oh, you think people will just love you because you're rich. Or, oh, you're going to get bored because now you don't have a job. I mean, everybody's got their little gremlin or their little limiting belief that is the only reason they are not living the way that they want to. And so start with the vision, recognize the fears that come up and address those fears. And once you do, you realize that they have zero power. They're just little monsters that disappear when you turn the light on. You know what I mean? It's like, it just isn't true. And so, yes, start with the vision. And then, of course, once you've done that, then just educate.
Awesome. I absolutely appreciate everything that you're doing, the people that you're educating, and I know they appreciate it too. But most importantly, I appreciate that you are willing to share it, because not every superhero or would-be superhero is out there sharing their gift with the world and making it happen. So I personally want to say thanks for taking the time to invest yourself with us here at the Cashflow Diary.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? Well, it probably means that you need to get over to the Real Wealth Network website. It probably means that you need to download another podcast and, yes, get another book. Why? Because you're never, ever going to out-earn your personal growth, and you know you learned something today. It's been fun talking to you guys today, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.